Welcome back to What She Said with Kate Wheeler and Sharon Caddy.
And we are in studio here at SiriusXM Canada Talks 167, and we are joined by Mandy Goodhandy, Canada's first transgender woman stand-up entertainer. And you're a comedian mainly, aren't you?
Yes, I stand-up comedy, yeah, mostly.
And you have your own place in Toronto, a club and a restaurant now.
That is correct. The 120 Diner's our restaurant. It's on the main floor, and upstairs we have a nightclub. And we have live comedy shows, of course, and we have live music, live jazz, almost every night.
So where's that located in Toronto for anyone that's listening in the area? Cause
it's 120 Church Street,
nice,
down by Richmond and Church, beside McVeigh's.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like a fun place to go.
It's great. It's a lot of fun. Yes.
And you have the open mic stand-up comedy show is held upstairs Wednesday nights from 10 till 1.
Yes, my open mic is upstairs. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds. I'm going to come visit.
I'm going to come visit. Come by for a laugh. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the whole idea of your place, as I understand it, was to have a safe environment for transgender people and their supporters, their friends and families. How's that working?
It's great. That's how it started out, and it's actually going on 10 years that we have probably the very first party that is designed for trans women or men to come and feel safe and socialize and network with each other, because there isn't a lot of places we can go and do that and meet people that are also trans.
Now, how has it changed though in the 10 years since you opened?
It hasn't changed that much,
Really?
except there's more of us. Yeah, we seem to be multiplying, and which is good. There's a lot of young people realizing that that there's such a thing as feeling you were born the wrong gender. Before it was just, oh, I must be gay or I must be lesbian because this is how I feel. And now it's at the point where they're more, obviously when something comes along that's new to people, it's education, which people will go, wow, that exists. This is how I feel. So now I know why I feel the way I feel. And so there's a lot more trans people that are starting to realize they're trans at a younger age, which is good. And then they're a little more stable because of that, because it's mentally torturing.
Right.
When you're trying to live as a gender you're not comfortable with, and you have to try and fit in to what society feels male and female should be.
Like, I feel like in a societal sense, there's far more acceptance, far more understanding than maybe there had been in the past. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I think it's getting there. There's a lot more work to be done, obviously, because some people still don't understand what it is. And, but I think people are coming a long way. They certainly have with gay and lesbian. That's so mainstream now. But if we think back, it wasn't that long ago where it was considered freaky and that there was something mentally wrong with people who were gay and lesbian. But now it's becoming something mainstream, which is what I would love to get to the point where trans are like that, where people realize, yeah, we're like everybody else.
Yeah. Okay, but the government does not seem to think that you are like everybody else. And you have become groundbreaking as the first trans person to refuse to participate in the Canadian census because you don't think you should have to participate in any survey, government run or otherwise, that does not include or recognize trans people. So that's quite a stand to take. What upsets you about the census?
It started in 2001 when I saw the census, and everyone else just decided, well, oh, male or female, choose one. And I don't know what set me off, really. I looked at it and I went, okay, enough. I'm tired of this. I'm trans. I know why I feel trans, and there's other trans out there. There's no way it's just me in the world. And the government has to be the first to recognize that in order to humanize us. They have to admit that we exist. They have to acknowledge us, because otherwise we will always be picked on, pointed at, laughed at, and made look like fools like gays and lesbians used to, until people understood that it was something that was happening and there was a reason why people feel the way they feel. And so I thought, if the government's not going to acknowledge us and say, hey, we understand you're trans and we know we understand it, and we should really add you to our census and count you. Find out where are you located. How many are there out there that are feeling this way? Let's give you a box or a couple of boxes so you feel comfortable and human.
Now, the government's response, this is, I looked up the frequently answered questions. The government says, for the 2016 census, there's no question on sexual orientation, and they also decided to go with the term sex rather than gender because people found it, they understood it better, actually, is what the government said. And they say that these questions are currently asked in the General Social Survey and the Canadian Community Health Survey. Because they think that voluntary surveys are the most appropriate collection method, providing the context and relevance that is needed with this question. How do you feel about their answer?
Well, I'm so happy for them that they think they have it all figured out. Maybe they can teach me something. I don't know. It's I think what they do is they come up with answers feeling they can just iron things over, and they don't want to have to go through, and I understand to a certain degree, they don't have to go through this whole process now where almost every form that's ever done that asks about gender has to be changed or edited. And that is kind of understandable, but online, it's not. It's very simple online for any sort of an online situation. Add something. But they're always giving answers. They feel people are just going to kind of go, oh, okay, then that's what it is. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. It doesn't make us feel like we're welcome. It doesn't make us feel like we belong. It gets us bullied. It gets us killed. It gets us feeling uncomfortable every single day of our lives, where it becomes, especially for younger people. For me, I don't give a crap anymore. I live the way I want, but I'm comfortable because I own my own business. I don't have to work for people. I don't have to go around and struggle for an employment, even though people will say, oh, well, it doesn't matter if you're trans. We'll hire you if you're good for the job. No, I'm sorry. It totally matters. It totally matters in some cases still if you're a woman or if you're gay or if you're a lesbian. And I don't care what anybody says. That is what happens out there, and it's still happening. So you can imagine what it's like for trans people to get a job. And so like I said, I'm lucky. I'm one of the lucky ones to have my own business and work for myself. And I'm also lucky that I'm older and I've gone through a lot of my life already. And I'm at that point, and sometimes I think you may relate, I don't know. You get to a certain age where it's almost like you wake up and go, I don't care anymore. I don't.
I'm looking forward to becoming the crazy old lady riding around on the bicycle with a hat.
Good for you.
It's very freeing, isn't it?
It is. It's like, let it all hang out. It's like, okay, it's like I'm having fun. I'm older and I've lived it and I'm more experienced. And so I feel sorry for the younger trans people is what I'm saying, because for them, this is why I'm so vocal about it. It's for the younger people who are coming up, need to feel that they're accepted, and especially by our government, that they have rights, they can be comfortable, they are not supposed to be bullied, they don't have to accept being bullied. People cannot turn around and see something they don't understand or someone that looks like something they don't understand and figure, we'll beat it up or kill it. And that, unfortunately, is what is still going on with the majority of people out there that do not have open minds.
And that's what she said. And she's Mandy Goodhandy. She's our guest this morning on Canada Talk, Sirius XM 167. Has there been any word government-wise about this form changing for the next go-round? Or are they simply oversimplifying things to the point that they're saying, well, if you identify as female, check female, and if you identify as male, check male? Is it an oversimplification on their part or a complete disregard?
I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think they're really outright trying to disregard it. I think they're doing their best to appease. And now I get that, and I appreciate that they're trying to. They're just not understanding the point. The point is some people don't even identify as any gender.
True.
And that's their option. Some people don't want to be called I'm not female. I'm not male. I'm trans woman. That's how I identify. So to ask them to put something like trans on a form, that would settle a lot of the problems. People who feel they're trans can fill that out. know that they're recognized. And people in the mainstream can see that that exists and go, oh, what's this? And then when people are aware that something exists, then education can begin. And that is where my thing is. It's like, let's educate people. Who are we? Why do we feel the way we do? We don't get enough of that. And I was on one interview at one point, and I won't say which one, but I was at that point, the statement that came out of the person interviewing me was, well, we know you exist. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner came out. And I'm thinking, okay, I know that's coming from a good place, that we do exist, yes. But just because a celebrity came out as a trans woman does not mean everyone knows we exist. And then you get a little group of trans women traveling around the country on a bus, then everybody goes, oh, look, there is trans people out there. You know, it's not enough. It doesn't really educate people on who we are, and that also comes down to the school. When do we start learning? When do we start teaching our children? And the amazing thing is, children are so resilient. There has not ever been, my nephews and nieces, and now I have great nephews and nieces, there has never been a problem. They ask a question, they're answered, and they run off with their life.
Yeah.
It was no big deal.
We are going to take a break here. We're going to come back and talk to transgender entertainer and activist Mandy Goodhandy a little bit more on the other side of the break. So don't go away. This is Sirius XM Canada Talks 167. And we're back in studio. Sharon, Caddy, and Kate Wheeler with you today. And joining us is transgender entertainer Mandy Goodhandy. You had a little bit of a problem with the Canadian census. In fact, she's had a problem with the Canadian census for about 15 years, 2001, you said?
Yeah.
It started. So they do give you an option when it comes to picking or selecting a gender. You can leave the question blank and then fill in the comment to make your opinion and gender or the way you identify known. Is that's not enough?
No, back to 2001 first before I touch on that question. 2001, that's exactly what I did. I didn't fill out a gender, and then I just wrote a comment. But this time around, yes, they're trying to appease, and I understand they're doing their best, but when you're online and you fill that out, what they don't tell you is if you leave it blank, a sign comes up saying you must fill out a gender, and you have not filled out the gender. But you don't know that you can just click next and ignore that, and it will take you directly to the comments. But that is not described to you. So it doesn't say, please click next and then describe why you're not filling out a gender. So they're making it look like they're forcing you to do it. But on the other hand, they're saying, no, we're not. You can go to the comments, but you can't get to the comments if you don't realize that you can get to the comments.
So it's an ineffective form.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the appeasal, we did this, we did our best. It's that kind of thing. Throw us a bone, and, you know.
So what would you like to see? What descriptions would you like to see when it comes to sex/gender?
Well, you know, when it comes down to it, I always stress this fact. I'm not speaking for every trans person out there, so I'm only speaking with what would make me comfortable, and what I think would make some trans people that I've spoken to comfortable is adding the option of trans. It could be T, it could be trans, whatever they decide to be, and another box that says other, or whatever they want to use as the term. That's for genderqueer people, two-spirit people who have been around a lot longer than all of us, and people who just basically don't want to be either gender. Back to the counting. You know, how can you have statistics without knowing who exists out there?
So you're not accurately counting your population if you're not counting every category.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's the whole thing. And it's the male and female, it's interesting, and I get it, because that's what we're used to, and it's understandable. People don't like change. They want to dig in and go, no, what the hell is this? You're either born male or female, and it's again back to the genitals. Every single time it comes down to the genitalia, and people don't seem to understand that is the least of the way trans people acknowledge themselves. It's nothing to do with the gender.
Well, and that changes within the community as well, because I'm old enough to remember when she-male was a term that was used that is not used anymore, right? So things change within your communities.
Yes, they do. And I use that term myself. It was like I was on the internet early, like late 90s. I had a website and everything, and we called it she-male. It was always the term online. It was the term for sex workers. It was the term for people in the adult entertainment industry, and it was just she-male. That's how people knew who we were. That was the term. And the same with tranny. And I still use the term tranny because it's comical sounding when I do stand-up comedy or something to do with entertainment, because it sounds funny, you know, when you go on this tranny. And it's like, but I always explain in my comedy show that you can't use that term, I can. You know, and like whenever a comic goes up on stage, and some of them attempt to do trans humor, you know, and I'm okay with that too, because you know what? If you're not made fun of, then you don't exist.
That's true.
You know, and it's like, and it's like I say to the comics, go ahead, throw jokes at me, you know, you better be funny at it, you know, because I'm going to come up right after you and I will level you.
I love it.
So, you know, be funny, but, you know, do it with humor.
Sure.
You know, not with intent of hurting. And trans people are not, a lot of trans people out there are not ready for that yet. And I understand that. We're trying to protect ourselves. We don't want to be called she-male and tranny in a derogatory term.
Sure.
Because it leads to the bullying and it leads to the killing, and it leads to you are nothing and you are this. And so I'm okay with all that. A lot of the people in the community decided we don't like that term, we don't like this term, and I will follow along respectfully.
Now, we have been hearing a lot about this when it comes to access to bathrooms in the United States. Now, the Obama administration today is telling schools and colleges nationwide that they must allow transgender students access to bathrooms consistent with their gender identity. No student should ever have to go through the experience of feeling unwelcome at school or on a college campus, says the U.S. Education Secretary John King Jr. So how do you and your friends in the community, how are you reacting to this bathroom brawl?
Well put.
I think it's always been the case, hasn't it? I got picked on more when I went into a boy's bathroom when I was a boy than I'm now, you know, going into women's bathrooms as a woman. It's
well, we're just generally nicer.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right, but you know what? Not as clean.
Isn't that true?
I'm sorry. That surprised the hell out of me. I was waiting to walk into Utopia, and I thought, I get it. And it's like
disgusting.
Throwing things all over the place. And a men's bathroom. Men go into the bathroom to use it. They get the hell out.
Yes.
It's that simple. And it's like it seems to become a community in some women's bathrooms, not all.
So you mean, but this fight has been getting a lot of support from entertainers and artists. You know, either donating their money from the concert, including the promoters' money, or pulling their concerts. Yeah. So how is it here? How do you feel about this whole situation? I mean, bathroom access, is it as big a deal here?
I guess it would be a case-by-case basis, but I think that it's still uncomfortable for a lot of trans people because, again, there's a bill that's being tabled. I'm sorry, I don't remember the number of the bill. It's being tabled that trans people will be allowed to use the bathroom of their choice, but not in government buildings or in women's shelters. And so they gave us something and then they pulled back something else. And the dilemma that I have is, what the hell is going on in those bathrooms that I don't know anything about? Like, are people having a party that stops when I get in there?
We're all just doing our business.
Isn't that what we're all doing? It's like you go in and you just go to the bathroom and you leave. I don't know what this whole thing is about. All of a sudden, it becomes about the children. And I want my children protected. I don't want a man in a dress walking into a bathroom. What was stopping a man in a dress for going into the bathroom at any point, any time? If there was any sort of a pervert in any bathroom, that would have happened already. And if it's happening, why isn't it being looked after? So it has nothing to do with someone who's trans walking into a bathroom. You know, it's
There's a joke in there somewhere, right?
It's like the setup is there.
Trans walks into a bathroom and...
How come you know me so well? I mean, but that's one of the questions I do get, and people are interested in knowing. And I was mentioning earlier during the break that the opportunity to get up in the mainstream and tell jokes to people and be able to bring up the trans thing, it's good because people are sitting there, they're being educated, but they're also getting a laugh and going, wow, you know, they're funny like the rest of us. And it's like, yeah, we see humor in things too. We have to look at that. Otherwise, we can't survive without humor. And so my line is, and I'll stand there and I'll go, well, some people, the first thing is they're wondering, what bathroom do you use?
Okay.
Well, in case you can't figure that out, it's the one with the shortest lineup.
Yeah. I've gone into the men's bathroom
I have
plenty of
too.
times at concerts because I can't.
yeah.
There's one stall. There's usually a stall. It's not just urinals in the men's, and the women are lined up around the block.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, hello, coming in, gotta go. Sorry, boys.
Not
and
looking,
in I go.
just doing my business.
Just off I go. So
And
I
they're
have
not
no qualms.
And they're not using those stalls anyway most of the time.
No.
So there you are. It's like, I don't understand. I never did. That only happened to me once. And interesting you bring that up. I wasn't the only one. And I'm not the only one carrying a picket sign, but it was at the Royal York of all places. And I was there. There was this big party. I was there with a date, and his company was celebrating Christmas. And it was huge. It was like in this big ballroom. And where all the women are in gowns, of course. And so I come out and I think, I have to use the bathroom. And I see this big lineup of all these wonderful women standing there waiting to get into the bathroom, and not a single person waiting to get into the bands. And so I started a movement.
So to
I
speak.
did. Yes, but of course only in the right bathroom. So, and so basically I said, ladies, you know what? Let's go in here. There's no lineup. And as soon as I started walking towards that bathroom, a lot of the women started following me.
Well, my daughter's school, she goes to McGill, University at McGill. And when we got there to her room, I mean, it's what's called the dorm.
Yes.
I was very surprised that the bathroom was co-ed as well.
At Western, it was the same for my
urinals.
daughter.
And Sophie
Yeah.
thought, well, guys won't be using it while I go in there to the shower. And she said, for the most part, they do.
Yeah.
So, and you kind of get used to it, and you just sort of walk by, or there tends to be times. But I thought, well, that's been set up like that way for
Forever.
Because
Because, my daughter's residence was the same first year. Yeah.
So I found it a little bit, one large bathroom in the middle of all the rooms that go around. That surprised me, but I went, okay, well, I'm not dealing with it.
They don't seem uncomfortable with it. They seem okay with it.
She was a little sort of, do
Well,
I
yeah.
really want to see that first thing in the morning? So speaking of humor, what do you think about the whole Caitlyn Jenner rumor that she now wants to, I think, detransition?
Because I'm sure that first transition was a hasty decision.
Hurry, the cameras are going to start up quick.
Oh, my gosh.
I did a few interviews when Caitlyn came out as trans, and I had an opportunity to say a couple of things about it, not as much as I wanted to. But you have to be careful. I had to be careful because as another trans woman, I can't judge, and I shouldn't judge. We have to give it time. But I knew where it was going. Right from the beginning, I knew where it was going. When I watched the interview with Diane Sawyer, and I thought, okay, Miss Jenner, first of all, you don't want to claim you're trans right away. You want to wait. It's like, tune in next week when I actually become trans. And I say that I'm a woman, and I give you my woman's name. And it's like, I don't know about other trans women out there, but as soon as you know you're trans and you feel that you can come out, you come out. That very second, the first chance you get. And it's like, oh my God, I feel free about this. But there was the fact that there was a little bit of a time in between. I'm not ready to be trans yet because I don't have my surgery yet, and I don't have this yet. It doesn't work that way. It's the way you've always felt. You feel, you get in touch with that little girl that you always felt you were from the very beginning, and then you had to learn to be a boy in order to survive, and then you look back and go, That's what was wrong. Let's get that little girl back because that's
But isn't
me.
that kind of what he said in that interview, that he had always felt like that and was trying on his sister's clothes and all that kind of stuff, right from the time he was little?
You know, the interesting thing is, yes, trying on the clothes is a bit of it, but not all trans women are femme trans. And it's not always about the clothes, and that's the first thing that kind of put red flags up for me, was talking about the clothing all the time and how you looked. And I'm thinking, no, that's not
how you
really what our
feel.
first thing is. We're not, you know, the hardest thing about being a woman, she said, is knowing what to wear. And I was kind of in shock when I read it. I thought, what? Really? Is that the hardest thing about being a woman, is knowing what to wear? And that kind of bothered me.
So not a great role model for the community? What do you think?
You know, I think what I've said from the very beginning, any awareness is awareness. And the fact that she's a celebrity and she came out was powerful. And it's it was very important for the trans community, because unfortunately people look to the celebrities all the time. That's the way things are now. And so if a celebrity is out there going, I'm trans, and then, you know, starts traveling in a bus with all these trans women and they're all talking about situations, which is important to hear, the mainstream needs to hear that, then that is good. Is she a good model? It's not for me to judge, but from what I've seen, it's uncomfortable. First of all, she goes on about being free. Sweetheart, you're not free until you actually go out into the world. Okay? Going from your beach house to a bus to your location where you can tell there's only extras around you and there hasn't been any public people because of documentation, of course. The thing is, you have not been in the world, my dear. Okay? And come up with things like you're playing golf and then you're going, oh, my breasts are in the way. It's like, I'm sorry, I've never heard a woman ever say something like that before. You know, it's like, my breasts are in, is that your only concern here? You know, and it's like making it look, well, women can do sports. Make it look like women have never done sports before. It's just little things that I pick up on when I'm watching it, because I have to watch it, because a lot of it I'm documenting.
I feel sorry for you.
But, baby, don't feel sorry for me, because I'm going to be using a lot of it in my comedy show. Okay, it's fodder. I've never seen anything like it. Thank you, Caitlyn.
So it's fair for you comedically to take aim at her?
I think that it's more fair for me, believe it or not, because I'm a trans woman.
Okay.
Making jokes about a trans woman. And I'm not doing it all. See, the thing is, I'm sure she's a nice person. It's got nothing to do with her personally. It's to do with what she's putting across and some of the stupid things she says. That's no different than a gay man going up and making fun of a celebrity gay man. Or, you know, anything. It's not any different. It's just that people aren't used to it. They're not used to a trans woman making jokes about trans, because there isn't many of us out there that are stand-up comics. And if I'm the first one in Canada, as you know, and so it's like, this is so shocking and different to people, but it's educational. And I was mentioning this during the break. It was people will come up and ask me questions. It's about that. It's about starting conversation, and people saying, I didn't know trans people felt that way, or I didn't know we couldn't say this, or we shouldn't say that, and I didn't know. And that's what I want to hear, because that's where you educate, you know. And it's like, oh, really? Okay, well, let me just tell you this. This is how I feel and why I do. And then you get that, oh, really? Because a lot of people try and book me into the queer clubs. I'm using queer as the umbrella term. Oh, you should come and you should perform at so-and-so, the gay bar or the lesbian bar. And it's like, I would love to. And I love the fact that they're there doing comedy, but you're not the audience I'm trying to reach. I need to reach the mainstream out there so they are educated about who trans people are and that we have a sense of humor.
Oh, and by the way, all Kardashians are fair game, just saying.
Thank you very much for coming in and telling us, you know, about raising awareness about this issue. Mandy Goodhandy.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
and
ladies.
yeah, I'm definitely going to go down to this club. All right. We are going to take a break here at What She Said on Sirius XM 167 Canada Talks, and we will be right back, so don't you go anywhere.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.